We're back with Rob, and of course now we have my co-star Andrew kind of chiming in with us. Say hi, Andrew.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Let him know you're actually here talking.
Yeah, instead of behind the camera.
Right. And we have Rob as well back in the studio. We're going to talk a little bit more about Tsunami Bar stuff. Now, we haven't talked really at all since everything kind of broke down with like the Nick Chubb video and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of wanted your raw, physical, like visceral opinion firsthand. If there's something you could say, now I just wanted to kind of, lay down the draw a little bit. The NFL repost of that video got, I think, 10.8 million views. Okay.
I did not know that.
The ESPN version of the video got, I think, 3.2. And then SportsCenter's version of that video got something around the same, I think about the same exposure. What's really cool this time around is if you look through those comments, a lot of players, a lot of verified checkmark players are the ones saying, hey, this is a Tsunami Bar. This is for athletic potential. This is for explosive potential, for stability work and all that kind of stuff. So the comments are a lot more positive than it's ever been before. But this is my question to you. If you had to tell those negative comments something, or if you wanted to share any thought you had about that bar right now, what would it be to those people?
As far as addressing the negative comments, because we've had to at least put up with them for a number of years now, because going back to the James Harrison video that went viral the first time around,
right?
There were tons of negative comments along with positive comments, but all the way up to this point, even though the negative comments aren't nearly as plentiful as they were in the past, they never base it with any kind of substantive fact, anything other than opinion.
Right.
They never have anything to back up what they're saying. Mm-hmm. I've even offered, there was one guy back when I used to tangle with him a little bit.
Yeah.
You get out here and I'll put you through a workout myself and we'll video the whole thing. And if you don't have your mind changed at that point, I'll pay for all your expenses back. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut. Mm-hmm. And never heard from him again.
Of course. And that's what always happens. I feel like, you sort of forget because you temper your mind into thinking that Instagram is a platform that has a community of lifters, but you'll sort of forget that a lot of these people, they've never been to a gym at all, right?
No, they're armchair quarterbacks for the most part. Now they're actively engaged armchair quarterbacks. I would call myself an armchair quarterback. I don't play anymore. I don't play recreational. I don't play organized. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. But I watch the game and I follow it, and I'm trying to call plays and defenses and guess things right along and second guess the coach and do all that kind of stuff. So I am an armchair quarterback, but I don't go and run my mouth, on social platforms for everybody to see just how stupid I really am.
Right.
But when it comes to these guys that lift, if they don't know what they're talking about, and this goes for anything, it doesn't have to be Tsunami Bar, it can be anything. If they don't know what they're talking about, they can't base it on some kind of factual evidence of some sort, then they just need to throw an opinion out there and then let's debate it. Let's talk about it. Let's inform people.
Yeah.
The mode of attacking, without any ammo in your gun is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny because like for me, I'm in a bunch of different lifting discords now, even more since the last time we talked. Mm-hmm. And anytime I talk about the bar, usually it's always the people who are kind of just getting into powerlifting that seem like they are the most adamant that this is just some type of newfangled thing that people just don't need, right?
Yeah. And I get that. When I first got exposed to this bar, I was hesitant. It wasn't anything that, I kind of niched it right out of the gate. I thought back then it was called a level 3. It's a force bar now. It's the middle bar of the 3. And I just kind of niched it. I was at the coaching at the Alabama Birmingham at the time. And all I thought about was maybe I can do some speed day work or some quick work with it. But I really didn't have it in the group that's really kind of categorized for, which is force production.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have all the information, but, I took the time once I decided to take the time to learn about it and to investigate it and to actually put my hands on it and go, apply it. I was doing a West Side program at the time with Max Effort and Dynamic Days. And I just put that in place of what I was doing with steel. And I blended the two for quite a number of years before I finally got to the point to where this steel, which, is still very beneficial. I still believe in it. But the Tsunami bar was showing its worth. It was legit. And, to this day, I credit it at my age. I credit it 100% for me being able to do the things that I do in the weight room.
Yeah, and again, not to interrupt the train that we're kind of going on right now, but I also wanted to give a shout out to the kid who went right after Nick Chubb as well.
Oh,
I mean, a high schooler, right?
Yeah.
Doing 5'10" plus on a max bar.
Yeah.
For 2. I mean, that is insanely impressive.
Yeah, and we've seen that before. We go to West Point in West Point, Mississippi, a high school. They've won a number of state championships since they started training with the Tsunami bar. They went on a string of 4 out of 5 in a state championships.
Yeah,
I think they missed another year, and then the 2 years that they didn't win the state title, they came in second.
Yeah.
So
which I feel like people don't really address that part. They don't. And it's not that I'm saying Tsunami bar. And the technology had 100% of everything to do with that. They got great coaching and they got great kids. And I really wouldn't be surprised because I remember that was like right around peak COVID too. So I wouldn't be surprised if partially that's related. To
there's no doubt. In fact, they had 2 forfeited games. That year.
Yeah,
and everybody was in the same boat, so it wasn't. It was a difficult year.
Right.
But the production and the results that you get out of that technology have just been proven year after year after year after year, and they continue to get reproduced. And that's the science. That's the scientific model. Is it repetitive?
Right.
And it is.
Is it reproducible?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's showing itself, and I just encourage people that if you're new to it and you don't understand it, reach out to us.
Yeah,
we'll help out. I answer questions on it every day.
Yeah,
and if you're still fuzzy about it, we'll try to find somebody in your area that's got one. We'll try to get it in your hands.
Well, and the thing is even to the most objective denier of the bar, I feel like the one thing I want to get across is that from an auto-regulatory standpoint, right? It's a perfect substitute for a coach that just has too many kids. And the reality is that no coach, the perfect way to coach is 1 kid to a coach, right? That's the reality of the situation. But that'll never be possible.
No, can't do it.
So rather than having to deload, which, obviously if you're doing a perfect program with a specific RP in mind, you can literally just watch the force production decrease as they do the workout. It's still effective, but it's basically deloading them by showcasing the bar with lesser oscillation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, kind of how I try to teach it for the untrained eye, especially, I'll use a bench press as an example. But when you're coming from the bottom of your stroke, right after the eccentric move, and you're exploding to your concentric move, if you watch that bar and it doesn't load at the top, give that, I guess they call it smiles and frowns, depending on which way the bar is moving.
Right.
But at the top, it's going to give you the upward trend on the deflection of the bar. And if somebody's not doing that, then they're slowing down. Mm-hmm. And that's where you got to make your adjustments. So it's, to the trained eye, it's really easy to see, but you're right. When you get these coaches at the high school level are overwhelmed with all the kids they have to work with in the short amount of time that they have to work with them, and trying to keep eyeballs on all of them and coach them all up the same is just really, I don't even know how they do it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like right there, that is an objective benefit, right? Mm-hmm. Like that is something that I feel like most people can't argue with. I mean, you can always argue with the science that a steel barbell might be better for hypertrophy or for maxing out, but the reality is that these bars are driven for athletic increase, not for aesthetic increase, not for any of that. I mean, I know that's a big component of it. Sure, mm-hmm. It's there, but in the end of the day, these are built for athletes. Yeah,
I guess I have to use myself as the example. I came from a bodybuilding background before I ever got into coaching, so I took that method of training and kind of had to adjust and learn how to train athletes, create athletes, make more productive athletes, more explosive athletes, faster athletes, because I was just used to, how do we make muscles big and strong?
Right.
So it was a little bit different for me, but, I had an open mind, wanted to learn. That's where I wanted to go. I was a former player. But back in my day, we didn't have well thought out, detailed athletic training. Mm-hmm. There was a chrome universal machine sitting in a corner,
right,
and everybody just went in there and got some reps in on that. It was a little bit different, but things have evolved. Now you see the high school weight rooms that you put together. I mean, good gosh. I mean, these things, in fact, it's a fact that they're more extensive than any collegiate weight room that I ever worked in.
This is kind of like a weird harebrained theory, and I kind of wanted to toss this with you a little bit before, but what I've noticed is that almost every single athletic paradigm always has some type of raw ephemera that you have to add in to training protocol to make that specific training protocol make sense. Obviously, in the 80s and 90s, there was a chemical aspect to it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I feel like something like this is maybe that answer, right?
Well, time will tell. This thing is really new, and if you take a look at the volumes of information that's out there, scientifically studied information, over years and years and years and years and years of training, it's all based on steel bars.
Right.
So this new page, this new chapter that we're getting into of technology with a flexible barbell is untapped. We don't have all the information yet. We're learning as we go.
Right.
The things that I learn, I've been using this device daily for, I don't know, probably 5 years, 6 years now. Mm-hmm. And I still learn stuff. A new application, a new way of doing, a new cadence, a new tempo, something that I can apply that I didn't know I could apply before, and apply a metric type move, a bounding move, or it's just, so far it's limitless. I haven't found really the end of the road yet.
Yeah, it's crazy because I recently saw a video of Brian Shaw doing deadlifts on a belt squat, on a tiger belt squat, right? Mm-hmm. And he was obviously loaded with his arms, but he still had the belt on him. And I was thinking, like, could you imagine doing that with like a Tsunami bar and surge?
Yeah.
On top of having that. Yeah. So now you have a binary weight.
Yeah.
But then you also have something that's a variable weight on top.
Yeah. And the Zercher squat is one of those squats that not only does it work well with the application of the deflection of the bar, but being that the bar is made from a polypropylene, it's not soft by any means, but it's not like steel, and then it's just super unforgiving. But with the bend in the bar, it sits so much more comfortably in the cup of your elbows. Yeah. Performing Zercher squats, which I used to dread, they're not so terrible now with this.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like the even distribution of weight, I mean, that already opens the door for so many other training protocol that you couldn't do with just a steel barbell. Mm-hmm. We see that a lot in the track and field world, right? Where we see someone using an SG bar loaded on the back with jumps and carries, but and they can't do that with a steel barbell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The plyometric application, which I really kind of got into that early on, has just amplified, with coaches that we have, within our circle, like Coach Clark, Diedrich Clark. He's done a lot of amazing stuff. He's a world record holder in track and field. So his resume speaks for itself, but he loves this technology. He applies it with all his kids that he trains, and it works. I mean, I still learn from him. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that we get, just like I said a moment ago, it's continuing to evolve. So what we've got now is just a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how much sports specificity we start going into, because that's such a like water and oil type of world, where there's people who will say like training sports specific is not a good idea. Mm-hmm. That if you want to run better sprints, just run more sprints. And then you have people who say like, no, that's literally what you have to address in terms of variance work. I feel like, and again, keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who is by no means like a seasoned lifter, but is somewhat of like a journeyman, right? Like I'm at that point right now, and I'm just going to relate it to me, where my bench will not go up if I bench more. I have to bench in terms of variances. I have to hit spoda presses. I have to hit pin presses. I have to work on the weakest point of my game so that number rises. I can't just do 531, tons of reps, and then get up there. I feel like maybe the bar is doing the same thing for a lot of these athletes, mm-hmm. where they're hitting a specific point where their athletic performance, it's like a bell curve. Mm-hmm. And to raise that bell curve, they have to address the lowest ends to raise those two up as well. Right. And I think maybe that's where this bar is kind of seeing a lot of play.
Yeah, I think the bar, or the steel bar and application does not conform to you at all. Where this bar, with the deflection that it has, depending on your range of motion, how fast you move, maybe you're quicker off the bottom, or you have a hitch at the top of your giddy up. The bar will work with you. but it will also train you. It will point out flaws in your motion, and clean your act up just a little bit to get you in a better spot. And by the way, talking about your lifting, like you said, it's been a little while since we've done one of these things, but man, you are hitting it. You must be drinking some unicorn juice with some, with maybe some hair off a Tibetan yak.
Right now,
what the heck is going on?
My big secret is
that a medium shirt you got on? What the heck is going on?
Right now, the big secret is that I've been kind of super loading all my micros that I've been like kind of lax at with like smoothies and stuff like that.
Okay,
I'm doing the Arnold answer, aren't I? I'm really doing that Arnold answer. I'm just put on the spot. Now I'm nervous. So I got to be like, it's diet, sunshine, and vitamins. That's all it is.
Too bad this is audio only. The YouTube video would see you busting out.
Oh, dude, and that's the point. Because here's the thing. You're gonna laugh, but I saw a couple of episodes. I was like, I'm not looking so hot. I'm looking a little wide, a little fat. So I was like, okay.
So I think you're
when we can find a time to redo it, they're gonna be like, who the hell is that guy? No.
Yeah, I think you're looking good. And I saw some of your posts. I guess it was a bench you were on. You were just toying around with some weight.
Yeah.
So the things are on the move.
You're going to laugh, but you saw that belt that I got.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about that.
So that was from the Garage Gym Discord or the Home Gym Discord. They one of the members actually bought that for me. I don't know who it is. It's a mystery, but I designed it. That's why it's so like Korean in terms of design.
No, I haven't looked at it up close because I could just see it on the video.
Yeah.
It looked like it had like scales on it.
Yeah. So it's like I made it kind of look like the Korean turtle boat. And then I put the Rose of Sharon, which is like the Korean national flower on.
That is fabulous.
Yeah. So I did that. And dude, so this is my first 13 millimeter belt.
Oh,
I have never
used.
This
is the heavy duty.
I've never used anything more than a nylon belt, right?
Yeah, but 10 is the most I've used.
It's insane, man. I was squatting in that 330 for 5 felt like 280.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Hey.
Like I can't believe, and I got like Cerberus sleeves coming in too, because I heard like those are some of the best. So I'm gonna see how heavy I can go. I'm gonna see exactly how much maxing out I can possibly do.
Lifters get excited about gear. I mean, it's fun when you start doing a little something and it works.
It's stupid, but it's like it's something a little cherry on top to get you in there and perform a little better.
Oh, I liked it. I mean, I noticed it. And then when you had a little caption about it, I really looked at it, and I thought, I got to take a look at this thing.
Well, it's funny, but like that's one of my favorite things about trying a new supplement is that I'm like, oh, let's see what this does for my performance. So it's like kind of like that, but in the equipment world.
No, it looks good. How's it constructed up front? Is it 2-hole?
One hole. It's just a 1-hole belt. I decided to not go with a lever because I've just never used belts before. So I wanted to keep it as basic as possible. Yeah. I'm kind of glad I did too because I like the 1-hole construction. I like how it looks.
I tell you, and speaking of gear, I'll go back to the Chubb video. Yeah. I only had anything on.
Dude, beltless.
Beltless.
Wraps,
everything.
Insane. Beltless, sleeveless. Just
T-shirt and shorts.
He looked like he just literally got out of Hibbett Sports.
Yeah. He just crawled up under the bar and walks out with it and bang bang for 2, put it on the rack like it was like, and I will say it. He made it look easy, but and by the way, that bar, it's supposed to max out at like 540, and it's 610 raw.
Yeah, he voided that warranty. He voided that warranty pretty damn heavy.
That show you that the bar held up miraculously.
Oh yeah,
beautifully.
And I was going to ask you this too. Almost no oscillation.
No,
it's weird because I know that we always talk about the importance of oscillation, right? But another part of me wonders if you have such good form in a squat where that thing is just draped,
rock. Yeah,
like that's got to be like a testament to his form, right?
Yeah, and he sat down perfectly. You could, and I really took a close look at that. I mean, he never gets out of posture at any point of move.
Yeah,
if you wanted to really dissect it, maybe on a second squat, coming up out of the bottom, he might have tipped just a hair.
Yeah, but you did see a little bit of
just a little bit. But that bar, when you got that kind of weight on your shoulders, especially the way the bar deflects all the weight to the ends of the bar, so it's really in your sagittal plane. Any kind of movement at all, even as unperceivable to the eye, he's feeling it. So he had to work against some stuff, Well, just what a beautiful lift. I
Well,
mean,
and just
down
to
and up,
dissect
down
that
and
a
up.
little bit more, like you and I both know, one of the hardest drills to kind of drill a new person is to keep that weight midfoot, right? When
Yeah.
they do like a normal squat on a normal
Yeah.
barbell. Now imagine that, but it's draped over you, and now imagine that it's also moving in the Y plane as well as up and down. Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now you have something where you have to quite literally auto-regulate to make sure that your form conforms to that specific movement, which in this case, he did it perfectly.
He did, and that goes. That's kind of like a training effect because he's been using this equipment. He's been using our gear.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like his first time under the bar. So his body has adapted to the oscillations that it would have got in the beginning, which might have thrown him off his pins just a little bit.
Just a little bit, I'm sure.
But
And the thing
now
is
he's got it- he's
when you
got a
do that
track.
walkout, you have to really be
yeah.
focused on
Yeah,
it.
the walkout is probably the most difficult. I felt bad about it. Get him under a monolift or something on that.
Yeah. And again, it's interesting because again, obviously the person who went right after that, he did a great job, but there's a little bit more oscillation because again, the movement is a little bit different. Now that could be also a belt effect too.
Yep.
Because what I realize now is that now that I have the belt, it does cut a little bit of depth for me, just a hair. Now, for me, it's not a big problem because I've always been ass aggressive to the point
deep
where
squatter. I've seen
even
you
now, with the belt, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But I could kind of see that coming into play. You know, as lower you get, the more expanded your core gets, the more you don't want to dip your hips down. Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I can see that being a factor as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
It was impressive. I hope to see more out of it.
And I just wanted to tell everybody kind of with the Tsunami Bar stuff, we're probably going to upload way more videos now. I have a backlog of videos that I've kind of been waiting for something like this. So if you guys, anyone out there who has a Tsunami Bar, SG Bar, anything, just keep tagging us and keep sending us videos because we love doing the breakdowns. I mean, it's crazy, but that one guy, he did basically a monster bench.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was really cool to see that somebody else kind of came up with that exact same principle without us even communicating.
No, that was gosh, I don't know where I saw it first. I probably saw your posting of it first.
I think Diedrich was one of the first ones to do
Diedrich
monster
put that one out?
I think because I remember when we were at Cedartown when Diedrich did the demonstration, Carl told him, "Hey, do the monster bench," and we saw it first time there with doing it, and to see somebody just emulate that without even knowing about it,
Right?
That's kind of impressive,
Right, and gosh, there's so many things that I want to talk about.
And we will. The thing is we got to save a little bit in the tank
because
too.
I get these questions. I just got one through an email late last week where the guy's he's buying a couple of bars. He's getting a speed bar and a force bar, and he wants some instruction because he wants to train his son. And I with trying to be as polite as I can. It's like, dude, you're talking about a volume of information.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
So I said, let's get you the bars. And then once you start playing with them where you have some specific questions, then we can address those because, just to say, how do you do it? There's a lot of ways to do it.
I know. And that's what's so difficult is that, and I've had this problem before too, but somebody was like, I talked to like Nick Canby. I asked him how to use a bar and he just straight up recommended me the Max bar. And I'm always like, no, man, I don't, Nick is so nice, and I think he legitimately believes in people so much that he thinks like, oh yeah, they can do it if they train like me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's just not how that works, man.
He's superhuman.
Yeah. So it's funny, but
Canby is incredible.
It's funny, but that guy was like, so I'll probably get a speed and a force now because the Max, I think it's just a little too much, So it is one of those things where you have to come at this a little bit more on the humbler plane.
Yeah,
when you get one of these bars.
it's something. I get excited about it when I see these. Somebody new put something out there.
Yeah.
It fires us up, makes us want to learn more and do better, and we're always evolving this product.
I know.
I mean, we're still looking at maybe not trying to give away too much of the things that come, but accelerometers and put things to measure speed and measure deflection. So we can have a number base to go off of instead of what the eye sees.
And more so too, at least from the Williams side, because we also do all the Williams strength stuff, all the rack build outs. Soon we're probably going to have to talk about either attachments or something that's built for the Tsunami Bar specific.
Yeah.
Because we're the only ones that, we work with them directly.
Yep.
So we really need to come up with something like that to where the Tsunami Bar becomes this industry standard.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. It's going to be really cool. Again, and I don't know, if you'd agree with this, but it's probably better to go under than to go over as far as your athletic potential with that bar, right? Like
No question.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like, you got to, especially if you're a parent, you got a small kid and you want to get the clothes that fit, but he's going to grow right out of them, and you have to go buy the next size up. Same with the Tsunami bar. I know it's expensive, but you really need something that you can manage the deflection and learn how to use the deflection.
Yeah.
If you get something that's too stiff, you won't get to understand the application of speed into a move. So that's vitally important. Now you can do that by buying some of the the smaller, the quick sticks, or something that doesn't cost as much, that has more deflection. You can learn how to apply speed and do a bunch of different moves, and then decide on where you're at, and then you can go with the speed bar, force bar, max bar, whatever you think might fit.
Yeah, my bit of advice would be that the beauty of having the lower level bars is that there's obviously tons of other accessory movements that you're not really thinking about when you buy a barbell that you can use, even if it turns out that you kind of outpace the speed bar. There's still tons of like accessory based work, overhead press work, right? Carry work. There's tons of other stuff that it's useful for. So as the bar gets more and more powerful and a little bit more for heavier weight, usually that cone kind of shrinks.
Yep,
right?
it does.
Yeah. So I would say if you had to choose one, go for a level that's a little bit under than what you think that you're probably capable of.
Yep, your learning curve will appreciate that.
Yeah,
because you're going to get to a point to where you're not getting a result. The bar's not bending for you because you don't know how to apply the speed. And I'm not trying to knock anybody, but I've seen some very qualified power lifters that can lift massive amounts of weight that can't move a 62-pound bar more than 1.8 feet per second,
right,
which is crawling. You really have to learn it, and if you're not used to it, it takes a little bit of time. Just like anything else athletic, it takes some reps. You got to get in there and grind it out, and with a little bit of practice and work, it's going to come, and you'll get it.
And again, going back to kind of the powerlifting sensibilities, we know that almost all athletic ability that translates to higher maxes happens usually within that RP 7 to 8 range, right?
Yep.
And by no means are you even really close to a grinder at that point.
Yeah,
so
not even close.
So it's usually a good idea to program the bar in a similar fashion, where you're not really using the bar as a grinder. Now, it's definitely effective as a tool for that if you have struggle with grinders in terms of form. But if your idea is to just keep raising maxes and just keep increasing in terms of strength, which I feel like the average audience might not be an athlete, but the average audience probably cares about strength.
Yeah.
Then I'd say, go for the lower bar. Make sure that you have good bar speed on that. Make sure you're going at, 0.7 meters a second plus?
Something like that. Yep.
And, just rip the hell out of the bar. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, heck yeah. I used, I still use the speed bar, but it was a regular part of my programming all of last year. And, prior to my shoulder surgery that I had, I was at my age, 62 years old, and I was still benching over 400 pounds, but I was still using the speed bar to get my speed working. Now, I'd use the force bar on some days as well.
Yeah.
But the speed bar was where it's at.
Would you use it for like close grip work and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I use it for too.
Yeah.
The speed bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really nice. It's also nice too because it's a little bit fatter.
Yeah.
So on that close grip, it doesn't nip at the wrist as much.
Oh, and that's another great point. And I used to coach up those college kids when I was with them, when we would do stuff like that, and I would try to coach them on how to use different angles to their grip so their wrist wouldn't get all bound up because of that small diameter bar. You really have to grip down on it.
Yeah.
And it ties you up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's funny because this is now kind of unrelated. Now we're just going into lifting talk, but that's fine because I love doing that and I know you love doing that too.
Yeah, I'm a junkie.
But I feel like one of those things, I feel like a lot of these kids are just starting lifting. They start using wrist reps so early.
Oh,
and when
yeah.
they do that, they really don't understand where the wrist position needs to be from the perspective bench. In actuality, I learned where wrist position had to be because of overhead pressing. Because there's no way you can do it with the wrong wrist form and not feel just immense amounts of pain.
Right.
So you kind of translate that over to a steel barbell, and you kind of realize you got to do it that way. I feel like Tsunami bar in a weird kind of way is similar in the sense that if you give a seasoned lifter who's just kind of within that angle, one of these bars and you kind of tell them to train around it a little bit, it'll just give them increased performance.
No doubt about it. It's I went through the same things trying to figure, because I grew up with no gear. I had no wraps, no. I won't even say it. Gloves. Who puts gloves?
Gloves? Hey, cut the episode, bro. No, we're not.
Lee Haney had some gloves way back in the day.
Yeah, the tan gardening. Yeah, that's right.
But,
the Home Depot's deluxes.
That was some good stuff. But belts and all that stuff, I didn't have any of that. I just got in there and lifted. So I really think that's a factor, and all your supporting muscles, getting in the game, all your stabilizers, everything that because we're all connected from the ground all the way up, of building that chain, and everything's got to do its job to be able to support the foundation. So people get into gear too early for the most part.
Yeah, and it's crazy because there's two things that right now I want to sort of address within the community. Actually, three things. One thing I keep seeing over and over again, and again, the cool part about the Discord is kind of you get to see people who really want to be a part of the sport, but they're having to learn from the outside in rather than the other way around. Right. They don't have, when you started lifting, I'm sure you had somebody in the weight room that helped you.
No,
I did. Oh, you didn't at all? I didn't.
No, I was in a room in the corner of the house with the most rickety bench that you could absolutely imagine.
Technically, me too.
Yeah,
I meant after we got to a certain level, when we went to an actual gymnasium or gym.
I did. Now I did when I first got introduced to a gym.
I told you I had those sand block weights.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah, it's crazy that the stuff that we started with. But when I did get introduced to a gym, the guy took me in there, and I was the weakest kid on the block. I mean, everybody in there was bigger and stronger than me, but my personality is I'm going to climb the ladder and I'm going to get a seat at the table with you guys.
Right.
It's the last thing I do.
Right.
And I just did listened, took the criticism where it was appropriate, because they got to break you down. They got to tell you where you're wrong and what you need to clean up. Yeah. And they coached me up, and I'm still close with a lot of those guys even today. And that was absolutely beneficial to have a little guidance in there. It was necessary.
It's crazy. Like a lot of these kids don't have that, right? So what they do is they'll kind of learn form from the internet. They'll kind of learn form from videos. You'll hear a lot of names like Alan Verhall and all this stuff all the time. And I feel like one of the things that I keep seeing over and over again are kids who, and I think this is partially because of TikTok and all the bodybuilding stuff kind of exploding all over.
Right.
But a lot of kids are like, do I need to cut because I'm fat right now?
Right.
And what I want to let you guys know, the younger guys, is this. You look bad because you have a lack of muscle. It is not a fat issue, okay? Skinny fat looks bad no matter how much you cut, right? You got to add muscle to look better from that perspective. That's one. These are the three rules.
Yeah, that's number one.
I want to address to the kids, all right? That's one. Two is work on your bench press, man. The deadlifting, y'all are so good at deadlifting. But your benching is so piss poor right now. You got to work on that a little bit. Oh, I'm going to get flagged probably. All this stuff.
That's all right.
And then the third thing is use equipment one at a time. I think that's really what it is. A lot of these kids go from no equipment to fully decked.
Yeah.
Go one at a time so you understand what each piece of equipment does as far as stimuli goes. Use knee wraps once and then nothing else. Then use a belt. Then use all this stuff. Don't just go straight into insert sleeves and compression socks. And, you know what I mean? Don't do all that all at once. That's just my advice for that.
Oh, yeah. And I do get quite amused when I see that.
Yeah.
And I get questions about it. I'll take it to a different sport, but it's the same principle. A young guy that I was playing golf with in a group, and young fellow. I mean, I don't think he got from tee to green inside of 10 strokes the whole time. Had no idea how far he hit a pitching wedge or an 8-iron or a 7-iron or a driver. And he tells me in the car, he goes, I think I need to get a rangefinder. I was like, no, son, you can't hit it out of your shadow yet. Yeah. You don't need a rangefinder. You need a golf swing.
Yeah.
So let's work on that first. So, so it's the same with gear. They get excited about getting all looked the part without knowing how everything really works.
Yeah, and of course, like my final bit of advice, I think, would be follow a program. If you don't know what you're doing, follow a program, learn from the program, learn how to program from a program, and slowly kind of move in that way. Because man, I get so many people being like, "Hey, can you review my program?" And it's just 16 sets of till failure volume and all this bullshit. And I'm like, no, man. No.
You'll find this amusing. Young fella brought me a couple sheets of paper. He said, this is my program. And I looked at it, and there wasn't not one leg move in there and no pull moves, no back, no posterior delt, no nothing. And I thought, dude, you got 32 sets of pecs right here. So what are we working on?
Hey man, that was going in the room's titties first, bro. That's that dude's built out, bro.
It was hilarious. So but you're right. There's tons of good information out there in this age of digital information that's just all over us in every angle. Mm-hmm. If you look for the stuff, there's plenty of great instructors and teachers and seasoned guys like yourself that have a lot of great information, and they'll share it. Yeah. So they just need to look for it.
I think is that there's just an oversaturation.
There is. You really, and as new as they are to the game, they don't know what's right and wrong.
Yeah. My thing is like, I know TikTok in terms of bodybuilding world's blowing up, and I know a lot of people are saying like, well, I just follow like a program that one of the people I follow.
Right.
It's just like, I mean, first of all, they're not doing that program, I'm sure.
Probably
obviously. Not. And then secondly, it's like you have no understanding of what like this person's education background is, what their background is as far as, I mean, they might look good, but you have no idea how they got there.
Right.
So it's like you just got to be careful and you got to vet it. I'd always say if your program either has a percentage or RPE, it's probably better than most. Mm-hmm. Because right now, the tons of programs that I see, the two stimuli that I keep seeing over and over again that I hate is it's either of a type of volume that's going up in percentages in a way that doesn't make sense. Because you and I both know you're probably going to deload, not increase.
Right.
And then, of course, so many of these programs that keep getting, say, till failure.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, and I'm not saying that there's not a place for that. Mm-hmm. There definitely is. But it doesn't make sense for your first workout, like your first movement to go to failure. Right. And then you're just torched for the rest of the program. That's just a big red flag.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I see that a lot. I mean, they'll have some kind of move where they got two spotters pulling plates off the end of the bar after every 5 reps until they, their ass hits the ground. Mm-hmm. And, that's really no way to go.
It's so weird too, because it's like, I remember doing shit like that when I first started, but that's because there was no information. All I had was the Pumping Iron documentary, which is a terrible training studio. Because, I'm doing narrow feet front squat, off of a triangle rack. And then all that stuff.
I agree. I never knew what a wide base squat was, until I was in my 30s. I went a long time just hammering those quads and really not getting to the posterior chain like I should have been.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Incorporating what I needed to.
I see a lot of people who are always like, I'm following like the Arnold program. And it's like, first of all, Arnold would probably never share a program. I just don't think he would ever.
In fact, he said so in Pumping Iron when he was asked about, giving
disinformation,
out information.
Right?
I have no problem giving them the wrong information.
Yeah. And secondly, it's like, that's like a 50-year-old program if it was real. Yeah. It's like,
we know a lot more now.
Guys, you got to get a little advanced. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, and I kind of understand the counter to that too, because like I've seen I'm doing programs right now that are part of 210-page PDFs, and I get it. That's pretty intimidating.
That's
I understand.
A lot.
But I'd say, I think one of the biggest advices that I could give to new people is you got to work that brain as much as that body. If anything, at the start, it's more brain than body.
No, there's no doubt about it. And I didn't do that in the beginning, just like you mentioned. All I did was get in there and do what those guys either what they did or what they told me to do. And I didn't know, but they didn't know either. They were just going off, we're going to do this. Well, what do I nutritionally, what do I do? Well, I drink a gallon of milk.
Oh, the GOMAD. I forgot about the GOMAD days. Oh yeah. Now you're bringing stuff back.
So, it's we know we have the information is so much better now.
Yeah.
So but it's fun to talk about the old stuff. It's almost like if you survived it, you got to get a badge or something for that.
And we gotta go back into that too, because I told you, man, like it's weird because, history sort of repeats itself. And something that I see now more than ever is I told you when I was first coming in, I had to literally take Russian film footage, Cold War footage from their training camps and kind of convert that over to a DVD. That was like one of my first things I did, which is super funny because it was these old fuzzy VHSs. But what's so interesting about those videos is that those guys, well, first of all, the most interesting thing is when they line up, they're all the exact same height, almost exact same.
Yeah, it is.
And that's what Cold War era.
Yeah,
yeah. You could do that.
They were cookie cutters.
Yeah,
I mean, they all looked the same.
I mean, literally, it looked like that. Have you ever seen the movie Waterloo?
No.
So Waterloo is really cool because it was actually, they conscripted the Russian military to help make that movie. So the coolest part about that movie is that when you see a line of soldiers, and I'm talking like 12,000 soldiers, they're all real people. So it's not CGI or anything like that. Cow. It's all, you can see their metal shining and stuff when the sun hits it and stuff. But when you watch that video, that's immediately where my brain went. Because I was like, oh yeah, and in that scene, they're all like the same height. It's all completely uniform. Woo. You could probably shoot a gun in there at that height and no one gets hurt. You know what I mean? Like just all the same height, But what's crazy is that in that video, you would think, oh, what is the secret to Russian performance, right? We sort of know what it was.
Oh, yeah.
But excluding that, they're just doing body weight work.
Yeah.
They're doing like leapfrogging off each other.
Wait a minute. I thought CrossFit invented all that.
We're just making enemies left and right today. Okay, I see.
I muddied the water.
I see how it is. Well, they weren't doing any kipping pull-ups. I can at least tell you that.
No, they didn't do that. Maybe CrossFit did invent that one.
Dude, it's insane seeing. I mean, it's a black and white film. I mean, it's just the most brutalist film you can imagine. And these guys are literally just doing leapfrogs in their gymnasium.
Yeah,
using stall bars.
It's and I've seen similar footage. It all seems to be running on a reel that's moving slightly faster than what it's like everybody's just a little quicker pace than what if it was running at a proper speed. So everybody's moving quick. They're all wearing the same little shorts. The
Adidas straps. Yeah. That's really what it was.
And to watch them go through these calisthenics, to leapfrog over each other, then jump up on a rack of monkey bars and travel down that and climb up up on a slant board of some sort and then fall off the other side of that and do log rolls underneath wires or ropes. I mean, all that stuff it's still extremely beneficial if we did that today.
And what I was going to say was, what does that tell you? It showcases that you're supposed to specialize later. You're supposed to generalize first, right?
Yep.
Do the calisthenics. If you're just starting, it's probably more advantageous for you to do intensive calisthenic program and then slowly move into weights than it is to just purely specialize in weights.
Yeah, no
because
doubt.
I've seen so many people who actually have impressive numbers, who actually can push weight a lot, but their form breakdown happens because when they first picked up that bar, their body composition was not what it is now, and they just never addressed it.
No, and they don't know how to move.
Yeah,
the sequencing of we'll go to the squat. It's one of the more technical moves to get it right. Get the weight distribution to be sit back in your heels a little bit, and instead of being up on your toes and let those heels come up off the ground. If they would learn to do that without any bar at all, they'd be way ahead of the game. But they don't. They want to climb up under the bar, start out with bad form, and then usually they continue doing that until they get too heavy and you just can't do it anymore. Yeah,
what's interesting is I recently learned that with deadlifts. I realized that my deadlift stance was too wide because when I first started training, I trained with the football team, right? I wasn't athletic enough to play football, but I was strong enough to train with them.
All right.
That's my weird background
That's all
story.
you need.
Yeah. But because they were teaching deadlifting in the same way that lineman drills were. They had a lineman stance, so they were a little bit wider. That makes sense because obviously you want to be strongest in that position.
Right.
But what I'm realizing is that conventional, man, you just go hip width.
Yeah.
Like, and that changes the game for certain people with mechanical disadvantages. You know what I mean? And, you know, little things like that. It's like, if you don't experiment and learn that kind of stuff from a firsthand basis, you might just be doing you might have a terrible energy leak or just not mechanically optimized, and you just keep hammering that. It's probably not the way to go.
No, you're right. Everybody, we're all built just a little bit differently. And, you know, I'll use bench press as the example. There's a certain slot that I can get into that, you know, when I hit it, 315 just flies up like wow, that was easy.
Oh, dude.
But if I'm out of it a hair, it's like, oh my God, I'm having a terrible day.
Dude, I know exactly what you mean. Like when you're in that perfect groove with that exact slight arch that you need.
Yeah.
And you know immediately, because as soon as you unrack, you're like, I don't feel any shoulder strain.
Yeah.
It's like you're
nothing.
Right in that zone, and that thing just flies off.
Yeah, nothing to it. It's you know, it's amazing what we can do when sequentially we're in the right spot.
Yeah. And also a lot of having the right equipment and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, it still makes a difference too.
Yeah. All right, Rob, I had a great time. We'll keep doing this. Yeah, we'll keep doing this more and more.
All right.
You know, I'm trying to keep it around 45 minutes.
Hey,
so
Andrew, what'd you think?
Oh, it's pretty good.
I love it. Well, I don't want us to burn out. That's the thing. I want to make sure that we keep doing this weekly.
Hey, very good.
And we'll keep having new guests and stuff like that come in and things. So we'll keep it up. And that's kind of what we're gonna do with the show. We're still rolling, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So again, like I said, we're gonna probably post this on the Tsunami social. I'm assuming we're gonna post it on the William Strength social. If you guys have any questions about anything, whether it's Tsunami equipment, whether it's William Strength equipment, any installs or anything like that, DM us anything that you want us to, you know, talk about, and we'll talk about it. And, you know, people out there, anybody who wants to be a guest, they can always DM us, and we can always talk about that too, because we have a lot of really big stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a super idea. Let's get some people in that, you know, to share opinions that might even have a different take than we do. Well,
and I know Cam is kind of working on this more than I am, but we got the knees over toes guy who wants us to build equipment out for him. You know,
really?
He posted that on his story, so I'm assuming we can just go public with it.
Okay, good.
But like, there's a lot of newer people in this industry that I think really want to work with us, you know, and that's the kind of route that I want to go down. I want us to do R&D every Friday.
You know, it's we can't grow if we don't incorporate new ideas and listen to new ideas and consider what else is a possibility. Yeah,
I'm really excited to do more research on him just because he's kind of changing my whole opinion on hip positioning and leg positioning and squatting and a lot more. So I'm curious to ask him more stuff.
That's great stuff right there. I'd be interested to get your take on whatever it is you pick up. Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. So, like I said, if anybody wants to DM us anything like that, please feel free to. And that's us signing off this time.